There are some stories that make headlines for a day, and then there are stories that seem to reopen an entire chapter of history. Tonight, we are talking about one of those stories. A claim is circulating about a previously hidden palace document connected to Princess Diana, a document that, according to the story, has left Prince William deeply emotional. But before we go any further, there is something important you should know. The details surrounding this alleged document have not been independently established as fact. So in this video, we are going to separate what is known from what is being claimed, and we are going to look at why a document connected to Diana could still have such an enormous emotional impact on the Prince of Wales decades after her death. Because when the name Diana is mentioned, people don't simply remember a princess, they remember a mother. They remember a woman who changed the way the royal family was seen by millions of people around the world. And most importantly, they remember the two young boys who lost their mother far too soon. Prince William was only 15 years old when Diana died in Paris in August 1997. Prince Harry was 12. For the public, Diana's death was a historic tragedy. For William and Harry, it was something much more personal. It was the loss of their mother. And that distinction matters. Over the years, William has spoken about the lasting impact of losing Diana. He has described grief as something that can remain with a person for many years, changing shape rather than simply disappearing. That is why any genuine document connected to Diana's private life, her relationship with the royal institution, or her relationship with her children would naturally attract enormous attention. Now imagine discovering something that your family had kept private for decades. Imagine being told that a document existed, but that you had never seen it. And then imagine opening it and reading words written during one of the most complicated periods of your mother's life. That is the emotional scenario at the center of this story. But is the document real? What exactly does it contain? And why is Prince William being described as heartbroken? Those are the questions we need to examine carefully. The palace has historically dealt with enormous amounts of correspondence, private memoranda, official records, security material, family communications, and documents concerning members of the royal household. Not every document becomes public. Some remain private because of personal confidentiality. Others can be protected for legal, historical, or security reasons. And sometimes documents emerge years later through archives, court proceedings, journalists, researchers, or official releases. That doesn't automatically mean that every dramatic story surrounding such a document is true. In fact, this is where the internet can become extremely dangerous. A headline can take a small piece of information and turn it into an emotional narrative. One sentence becomes a scandal, a private letter becomes a bombshell, an old photograph becomes proof. And suddenly millions of people are discussing something that has never actually been verified. So let's slow down. The most important question is not whether the headline sounds shocking. The question is whether there is reliable evidence behind it. The story suggests that the document reveals something significant about Diana, something that could cause William emotional pain. But there are several possibilities. It could allegedly concern Diana's private feelings. It could concern her relationship with the royal institution. It could concern conversations involving senior members of the royal household. It could concern her children. Or it could simply be a document that provides another perspective on events that the public has already discussed for decades. Those possibilities are very different from one another. And without seeing the original document, establishing its provenance and confirming its authenticity. We should not treat any dramatic interpretation as fact. What we can discuss with confidence is the extraordinary relationship between Diana's public image and the private memories of her sons. Diana became one of the most famous women in the world. Photographers followed her everywhere. Her clothes became international news. Her charity work reached millions. Her public appearances were watched by enormous audiences. But William didn't experience Diana primarily as an icon. He experienced her as his mother, and that may be one of the most important things to remember whenever stories about Diana and her children appear. To the world, she was Princess Diana. To William, she was Mum. That difference explains why old memories can carry such extraordinary emotional weight. William has spoken about how Diana shaped his understanding of compassion, homelessness, mental health, and the importance of speaking to people who are often ignored. She took her children into environments that were very different from the protected world of royalty. She wanted them to understand that life existed beyond palaces and official ceremonies. She exposed them to ordinary people. She encouraged empathy. She showed them that status did not make someone more valuable than another human being. Those lessons have remained visible in William's own public work. And that creates another reason why documents concerning Diana can attract so much interest. People are not simply curious about a historical figure. They are curious about the woman who helped shape the man William became. If an authentic document ever revealed something previously unknown about Diana's thoughts during those years, historians would naturally want to understand its context. But emotional headlines can sometimes go much further than the evidence. The phrase "heartbroken" is especially powerful. It immediately creates a picture in the viewer's mind. We imagine William sitting alone, reading something devastating. We imagine an emotional reaction. We imagine tears. But unless there is a direct and reliable source describing his reaction, we simply cannot know what happened privately. Royal family members are human beings, and their emotions deserve the same privacy that we would want for ourselves. That is particularly important when discussing grief. William has lived with the loss of Diana for nearly his entire adult life. He has built a family of his own. He has taken on major responsibilities. He has become one of the central figures in the British monarchy. But none of those responsibilities erase the fact that he once lost his mother. Time does not necessarily remove grief. Sometimes it simply teaches people how to carry it. And that may be why stories about Diana continue to affect William's generation of the royal family. Every new photograph, letter, recording, interview, or document has the potential to bring back memories that have been buried for years. There is another important point. Diana's relationship with the royal family remains one of the most discussed subjects in modern royal history. Her marriage to Charles became intensely scrutinized. Her separation from Charles attracted enormous public attention. Her television interviews became historic moments. Her charity work transformed her public identity, and her death became one of the defining tragedies of the 20th century. Because so much of her life happened under public observation, people sometimes assume that they know everything about her. But no public figure is completely understood through headlines. A person can be famous and still have private fears. A person can be photographed every day and still have thoughts that nobody else knows. That is why historical documents can be important. They can provide context. They can correct assumptions. They can sometimes challenge popular narratives. But they can also be misunderstood. A single sentence written during a moment of anger, sadness, confusion, or uncertainty does not necessarily represent an entire person's beliefs. Context matters. Timing matters. Authenticity matters. And above all, evidence matters. So if you have seen this story online and wondered whether William really received some devastating revelation about Diana, the honest answer is this: we should be cautious. Until the alleged document is publicly authenticated and its contents are confirmed by credible sources, the strongest claims surrounding it should be treated as unverified. That doesn't make the story uninteresting. In fact, it makes the subject even more fascinating, because the real story is not simply about a mysterious document. It is about memory. It is about a son growing up without his mother. It is about a family living under extraordinary public attention. And it is about how history can continue to affect people long after the events themselves have passed. Think about that for a moment. William was a child when Diana died. Today, he is a father. His own children are growing up in a world where Diana is remembered through photographs, documentaries, books, stories, and family memories. There is something deeply human about that. A child loses a parent. Years later, that child becomes a parent. And suddenly, memories of the person who raised you can take on an entirely different meaning. You start seeing your parents not only as your parents, but as human beings. You begin to understand their struggles, their mistakes, their hopes, their fears. And perhaps that is the most powerful reason why a document about Diana could affect William even today. Not because it necessarily contains some explosive secret, but because anything that reveals another side of his mother could change the way he remembers a part of his childhood. And if the document is eventually proven authentic, historians will have to examine it carefully rather than immediately turning it into another royal scandal. What did Diana actually write? When did she write it? Who was supposed to receive it? Was it private or official? Why was it preserved? Why did it remain unseen? And what evidence exists that connects it directly to Diana? Those are the questions that matter. Not the most dramatic headline. Not the most emotional thumbnail. The evidence. Because Diana's life has already been surrounded by enough speculation. Her legacy deserves better than endless rumors. It deserves context. It deserves accuracy. And it deserves respect. There is also something remarkable about how Diana's influence has survived. Even people who never met her know her story. Young people who were not alive when she died still recognize her name. Her photographs continue to circulate. Her fashion continues to inspire. Her charity work continues to be discussed. And her approach to public life continues to influence conversations about compassion and vulnerability. For William, however, her legacy is much more intimate. It is not simply history, it is family. That is why stories involving Diana should never be reduced to entertainment alone. Behind every headline about her sons are real people who lived through the events being discussed. And behind the global image of Princess Diana was a mother raising 2 boys while living under an extraordinary level of public scrutiny. If this alleged palace document is genuine, perhaps the most important thing it could offer is not another scandal. Perhaps it could offer another piece of context, another fragment of Diana's story, another glimpse into the person behind the famous image. And perhaps, for William, that could be meaningful in a way that the public will never fully understand. Because grief is private, memories are private, and some parts of a family story may never belong to the public at all. So, when you see a headline claiming that Prince William is heartbroken over a secret document about Diana, remember one simple rule: a powerful headline is not the same thing as verified evidence. We can discuss the possibility, we can examine the history, we can ask questions, but we should not turn an unverified claim into a fact. Diana's story is already powerful enough without exaggeration. Her life changed the monarchy, her death changed her sons, and her memory continues to influence the royal family decades later. Maybe that is the real reason this story has captured so much attention, because people still care. They care about Diana, they care about William, they care about Harry, and they remain fascinated by the unanswered questions surrounding one of the most extraordinary families in modern history. If the alleged document is eventually authenticated, it could become an important piece of the historical record. But until then, the responsible approach is to remain curious without automatically believing every dramatic claim. And perhaps that is the lesson hidden inside this entire story. Sometimes history isn't about discovering one shocking secret. Sometimes it is about understanding the people behind the headlines. A mother, two sons, a family, a tragedy, and a legacy that has lasted far longer than anyone could have imagined. Diana may be gone, but the questions surrounding her life continue. And as long as new evidence, new documents, and new perspectives appear, people will continue trying to understand who she really was. Not simply the princess they saw on television, but the woman her sons knew at home. And maybe that is the part of Diana's story that matters most. If you found this story interesting, don't just keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who has followed Diana's story for years. Because you never know which part of history might make someone look at the past in a completely different way. And if you want more carefully researched royal stories, unexpected historical revelations, and powerful stories about the people behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Leave your thoughts in the comments too. Do you think newly discovered historical documents can genuinely change how we understand someone like Princess Diana? Or do you think the public sometimes reads too much into private family history? Whatever you think, I want to hear your opinion. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.